to do a panel discussion with Dave and Carl here and find out a wee bit more about, I suppose we call it maybe around this part of the world, sort of the talk of the town yesterday, that Asos were coming to Belfast, and we're all fairly excited. But I think while we sort of think we know the story, we want to sort of find out more and find out about the challenges you're trying to solve. But first of all, guys, I'm hoping you can give us a bit of a short bio, your elevator pitch, so to speak, and introduce yourselves.
Do my traditional, is this working? Hi everyone, my name's Dave Green. I am the Director of Architecture and Engineering, if I can say that, for Asos, and that means I look after the senior architects, the senior engineers. We have a lot of engineers who are then matrixed and embedded in our delivery squads, who are working closely with the business in a product model. So, and as part of that, I get to, I have the privilege of working with people like Carl, but I get to help shape the direction, the technical direction of the business, how we are responding to the needs of the business, and the part that tech plays in that.
So my name's Carl Pestel. I'm a tech operating model lead within Asos, and that essentially means I look at how we do tech in Asos. That goes for everything to how we resource, how we make sure we have the right third parties, partners, and make sure we've got the right talent coming through. So the Northern Ireland Hub has been my baby for the last year. So it's very nice to get to the point yesterday where this was finally announced.
And just, I should do a disclaimer, we were out last night and we're all pretty delicate, so I'm hoping the energy in the room's going to be...
Feeling strong.
Going to be better, yeah. The mask has slipped. Well, listen, guys, obviously, thanks for joining us today. Before we get into Belfast, Carl, and maybe why, I suppose, you have chosen here and what the future is going to hold for it, I was interested to see in terms of you guys have worked, Dave, you've been there 6 years, Carl, you've been there 5 years, I think. You've seen some changes, but I suppose Asos, we all know, is because we've all, well, most of us have used it, probably much more so in the last 18 months. Give us a bit of the sort of story of Asos and maybe even how it started, how it's evolved since you've been there.
I'll take that one. So Asos was formed in the year 2000. Asos was originally called As Seen on Screen, which not many people realise. The whole premise behind it is we would sell imitation clothes that you would see through film or different media channels. So you saw your favourite actor, your actress wearing a certain item of clothing. Likelihood you'll be able to go on our website, find that item, then obviously purchase it. Obviously, over time that evolved. We started going to more of a fashion brand. Obviously, we as a startup, we had a few ups and downs, as you might expect. And obviously, the proof's in the pudding, I guess, in some ways, we got to where we are now. I guess in the present day, we've got a world-leading app, a world-leading website. It's available in 10 different languages across 200 markets roughly around the world. At any one time, there's about 85,000 products on our website. That is pretty much mixed between around 850 fashion brands, whether it be global fashion brands or whether it be local third-party fashion brands, as well as our own brands. So we do like Asos Design and Collusion and a few other ones as well as the acquisition recently of Topshop, Topman, Miss Selfridge, for example, as well. We've got 3 fairly large state-of-the-art fulfillment centres, one in the UK, one in Germany, and one in Atlanta. And we've got a fourth one on the way as well, which is in development in the minute and should come online at the end of this year. And the tagline we use is we are on a destination, we are on a target to be the #1 destination for fashion-loving 20-somethings.
Right, okay.
Is that good enough?
Yeah, that is fantastic. That was well rehearsed there. Oh, that was great. And what, I suppose, with the integration of those brands, Carl, the Topshops, the Arcadia piece that has come on, how's that changed? Because it's different, it's a different type of business. How's that affecting you guys in terms of looking what you do as a business?
All of a sudden overnight we had 300 new people to welcome into Asos and find them desks. That was a challenge. And then overnight we went from having, being an e-commerce direct-to-customer business to having a wholesale business. So now we sell to Zalando, we sell to Nordstrom in the US, and quite excitingly now as part of that, Asos is going to go physical for the first time ever in the US. So we'll start actually selling products in shop, which is all quite exciting, but brings with it a different set of challenges. And what was gratifying to see in there is how quickly tech was able to pivot, understand what's coming in, the needs, and basically integrate these 4 massive brands into our systems in pretty much 6 weeks over there. So it was a big focused effort by a lot of people to get it over the line, but it was rewarding and challenging.
Why, I appreciate this is a loaded question, I'm sort of setting you up here, but why do we feel, or do you feel internally that Asos has been such a success? There's a lot of e-commerce websites out there, trying to do the same things. What do you think's been the key driver of that? Can't just say tech, Carl.
So I think we've kind of stuck to what we know we're good at. We've not tried to pivot away too much, and when we have, I think we've realised pretty quick we need to pivot back. So we know our market, we know who we're aiming for. We're aiming for the 20-somethings. We know we're doing fashion. We're not an Amazon. We're not going to sell homeware, for example. It doesn't work. It's not our demographic. So that's probably number one. We stick to what we're good at. I guess we try and have, like I said before, the world-leading app, for example, so it's trying to be as seamless as we can for that customer journey to make sure people can obviously convert and purchase as seamless as can be. Things like the newness on the site. So we know for a fact we have to put lots of items on the site. So we aim for 5,000 items per week that go on the site to refresh the stock that's there. And that's purely because we know that our customers demand that. If we don't do that, people go elsewhere. They vote with their feet, not anything else. So we have to make sure the newness is on that site to ensure that we're getting the right people through. I guess the proposition in terms of the delivery and returns also obviously helps from our point of view. So the fact of people can get stuff delivered to home, free returns, next day delivery, in some cases same day delivery in London. And I think some other cities now, if I remember rightly. So there's probably a lot of benefits to ASOS in that way, and I think we've been fortunate. The last 18 months or so has obviously helped us in some ways with obviously a lot of stores closing, pushing people online. And all it's done is obviously increase our presence even more in that case.
Well, I think I read, probably takes us on to our next point. I think I'd read that it was up by over 300% over the last 18 months, but I can imagine what did that actually mean for people at the front end trying to deal with that? Because opportunities, one thing, and all of us want to take any opportunities afforded to us, but converting it and doing it and reacting to it is slightly different. How did you do that from a technology point of view?
It was quite sudden and overnight. I guess if we transitioned to home working and having to find new ways of working like that, the scale, from a tech perspective, that didn't really cause us any problems. We're all pretty much fully in the cloud now, so all of our systems can scale out really easily, and most of the teams are managing that auto scale throughout the course of the day anyway. But we get big peaks and troughs, which is part of the engineering challenges and some of the cool stuff we get to work with regularly. Black Friday is a huge thing. You can take like 2 weeks worth of sales in 6 hours on the site. It creates all kinds of exciting challenges. I think 1.3 million orders last Black Friday. Thousands of orders thousands of orders a day that you have to try and process through there. So the scale-wise, that increase wasn't so bad. Working out how people were going to operate and learn how to communicate through a teleconference world, it wasn't too bad. We already have a tech hub in Birmingham. We've got a number of people who are working in Italy as well for there. So we already had teams who were fully experienced with how they talk cross-ring. And in many ways, actually, the move to working more on Microsoft Teams made some of those relationships, some of those engagements actually smoother, and brought those guys in. And during lockdown, obviously, it gave us give us confidence to know that coming to somewhere like Belfast and having integrated teams is going to be entirely possible. But then you look at some of the more challenging bits were around the warehouse, and as the ramp up started to come in there, how do we keep people safe whilst working in there? So we had to reduce the number of people in the building. That obviously slows down the amount of products you can handle in there until we could work with local government, put perspex screens in there, make all the features required to keep people operating in safe there. So that took a little bit longer to come in and find a seat, but it's been a journey that we've all been on, and actually come out the end of it with a lot of processes have been streamlined, and it's brought that focus onto things to help.
Well, I'll come back to you on the cultural piece and maybe in terms of the people aspect of that. But if you can think about, or if we can talk about maybe, the challenges have been, you talked about scale, Dave, and we were talking about that yesterday in terms of the scale that you would have had to do, but actually the software you've already developed was fit for purpose. Where do you see the future of, e-commerce, or challenges with e-commerce, or opportunities for that matter? Where's your focus?
I guess it brings us neatly to data as well, because I think data is going to continue to be, as you'll have heard from a lot of the talks here today, is going to continue to be the focus. At the end of the day, we're a relatively simple business model, and we put 30 squares with products on the screen in front of a customer and say, and invite you to buy them. The trick is putting the right 30 products in front of people in front of those screens. As 85,000 different products on the site, how do you make sure that you're surfacing the right products to the people? And that's all about data. How do you take the understanding of what the customer wants, how they want to see, and tailor it to their experience? So it's machine learning, artificial intelligence, all powered by those machine learning engineers and data engineers who are driving that back into the customer experience, making that an even more seamless and tailored experience. And that ripples down to, well, now I've got the customers there, well, where do I put the stock? And again, and so you've got to work out the logistics of how do you lays things out. And that's all, again, powered by, understanding the data, the demand, the throughput, and how you then productionize that into, hyperscale machine learning models that you can action, which is it's some of the cooler stuff, again, that we get to work on.
Well, as a business then, because that, I'd imagine e-commerce as a whole has increased, you guys have been able to, take advantage of that opportunity because of the user friendliness of the system and all the rest of it. How, for the next phase, how do you continue that growth? We're going to talk about, how you're trying to grow, but how do you continue that growth? Is that new markets? Is that new tech? Or?
So I think yes. I think it's continued to grow. The partnership with Nordstrom in the US is really exciting, and the chance to operate in a physical world is new and really quite keen to get stuck into. That's going to bring new customers and new people into there, new demographics as part of that. But then continue to work in increase our presence in Germany and in Europe, as well as continue to invest in the UK. And then that's going to mean more products, more localized products. What sells in Germany, we're known only for our party dresses and things. So it's different territories know Asos for different things. And so how do you bring that personalized touch to that whole market and focus on what you're right at, what you're good at in those areas?
I'd said I wanted to bring it back to, because working from home, we all had to do, different industries cope with it differently, but the main feedback from any clients you would have spoke to in any industries, it was how to protect your people. Some would have got less busy, so naturally workloads would have went down. The reality is, in other industries, the workload went through the roof as there was so much digitization. How, what was your, I suppose, experience of that, and what did you guys do to even sort of not even protect your team, protect yourselves and your teams during what was a fairly challenging period?
Yeah, so I guess we do realise we're a very fortunate position. I guess in some ways we are an online retailer that grew through lockdown. Obviously, many didn't, and many industries weren't that fortunate. But I guess the main thing for us is making sure our people were safe and making sure their needs were catered for. So people with children, myself, Dave, for example, doing things like homeschooling. If anyone done it, it wasn't fun. Trying to juggle that with a career and trying to do proper work, I guess is the best way I can say it, and not schoolwork, was somewhat challenging. But obviously we made sure people were able to do so. So that's through flexible working, for example, catching up out of hours and things, and so on and so forth. We've always been very good at making sure we kind of check in with our people as well. So we would always focus on making sure they're okay, just like weekly check-ins, for example. But we kind of put an emphasis on that. We had some briefings from a management point of view to know what we're looking out for. Obviously, telltale signs of people not really coping very well. We had a very good network and still do have a very good network beforehand, and actually it's increased over the last kind of 18 months of mental health first aiders, as we cast as. So they've been on hand for anyone that has not been struggling, even just to have a chat with someone, to have someone to just a friendly ear, to, if you like, to talk to. And that's really helped. Like I say, flexible working is a big thing. We've always been quite flexible in terms of the way we work at Asos, and we still will be going forward. But we obviously emphasise that even more with the need for people to juggle work, personal life, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I think coupled together with, like Dave said, the changes we had to do to make people safe in our physical locations, in our warehouses, as well as, like I say, the stuff in the office. And now I think we're in a position where obviously things in London, not hugely different to here, I guess, in terms of the way things are opening up. But we're starting to see a few more people come back into the office now. And obviously we need to take into account what people, I guess, are feeling. So the biggest concern I think most people have from our point of view is not so much the office. We've done a very good job at making sure the office is safe. I think the biggest concern is actually the transport into the office. So getting on that tube or getting on the train into the office for an hour. That's what kind of thing fills people with dread still. So we need to obviously take that into account. Some people will cope with that better than others, and we just need to put in place a plan to deal with that. But like I say, the main thing for us is support.
I was going to say, the thing that kept me sane is I make myself do a virtual commute. I get up in the morning, I put my shoes on, and literally walk around the park, and then come back, start work, and then do the opposite at the end of the day, and refuse to pick up the phone after that. It doesn't work, but yeah, that's what I tell myself, and it does make a difference.
Yeah. Just trying to switch off. Well, this question could go in a million different directions, but I think, again, everyone has a perception of Asos and maybe think it's quite cool, it's quite, whatever. The marketing department's obviously doing a great job, but what's the culture like? We talked about looking after people. We talked about opportunity. We talked about buyovers and taking opportunity fairly quickly. How does that affect the culture? And again, it's like an elevator pitch. How would you describe it?
How would you describe Asos? There's a question. I mean, it's fast. It is. There's a lot of energy there. I think sometimes we forget we're quite big, and we think we're still that little start-up that's scrapping out there, which is great. I mean, you walk into the building, and it's the same in the Birmingham hub as well. There is a buzz going on, and just feel the energy go through. But if you've got 5,000 new products going live on the site every week, that's that's the models walking, being photographed, and the catwalks and all that operating there, and so it's all it just creates that buzz. It's a company that works hard, but it likes to have a good time with it, and some of the parties are probably not allowed to talk about due to HR reasons, but it's good fun. And from a personal note, I get to work with some brilliant people, and you get to learn things every day, which is the big challenge. The calibre of the tech crew is second to none in my experience. I haven't worked, and I don't want to work anywhere else. I haven't worked with anywhere near to the calibre of people we've got there.
Yeah, I have to say, I think the main thing is the culture in terms of the startup. It still has that startup feel. I think, like Dave says, we still think we're 200 people. Yeah. We don't realise we're nearly 4,000 people. We are. It is very fast paced. But a lot of people enjoy that, and the buzz in the office, and that's the one thing we're trying to recreate over here. We don't want to get to the point it's 11 us. We're between London, Birmingham, and Northern Ireland in Belfast. The plan would be to try and recreate that kind of feel, and I think the problem we have is how do we put our finger on what that feel is? What is the magic sauce? How to get there? But
well, I think first impressions of Belfast. I think we'll be all right.
Yeah. Well, you had said there's a catwalk in the London office, so is it going to be in Belfast or?
Yeah, unfortunately, we work for tech. there are legal reasons why we're not allowed on the catwalk anymore.
Yeah, well, Dave was actually telling me about gym he was trying to get into in work last night, but he basically has to shoo away all the male models here and doing selfies on the pictures, which is just brilliant.
Take up so much
absolutely
room.
Yeah, sounded like it. Well, let's get into Belfast then, guys, because I know Carl, you've been thinking about it with Dave for a long time now, and with the Birmingham, you put the place in Birmingham, and then with the move to you were mentioning with the move to remote working, it sort of give confidence. First of all, why Belfast? Why did you decide that you thought you could build? Not you thought you could, you thought you will build it in Belfast.
So I guess probably a bit of history in terms of kind of what Sean was alluding to. We started conversations and actually did a tour around Belfast probably about 4 years ago now, 2017 if I remember rightly. We had the first conversation about the idea of actually coming into almost another location outside of London, as well as the Birmingham office. At the time, it was the exact time we was just about to go live and go online with our new delivery hub in Germany. So it wasn't necessarily the best time for us from an Asos point of view to kind of then take on a new office at the same time. So we kind of put everything on ice, and then I guess we moved forward another 3-4 years or so, and we're in the same position we were then, but probably in a greater, obviously the pandemic, as I said before, has helped us in some ways. It's obviously helped us to grow. But it's also meant that we've, on the back of that, we've obviously still need to fulfill that demand to obviously be able to grow and obviously meet that demand as well. So we realise we do have to look outside. We find ourselves, I guess, in a very competitive market in London. We're batting against the likes of Amazon, Google, Facebook, Twitter. One is that obviously the resources alone just don't. It's very hard to find. They're scarce resources, especially for the kind of level of talent we're looking for. But on the back of that, when we do find people, you're finding that the likes of Amazon and Google are coming in, taking them off us quite quickly as well. So we realised for us to be able to meet our demand, we need to look elsewhere. We looked at other places. So we looked at Poland, we looked at Porto, we looked at other parts in the UK as well. But we've always kind of been quite excited by Belfast. So the whole idea around where we are from a Belfast point of view, the colleges, the universities, for example, are world leading especially compared to some that we looked at, for example. That obviously leads to a number of, or greater number of very skilled individuals coming out the back of it as well. So it gives us a future pipeline. Generally, I think we're very excited. One of the big draws for us, I think, was around the Assured Skills program. So the fact that we can bring some junior resources in, or even switchers or returners, so people that are coming back from like career breaks, or people that have taken time off for family reasons, for example, to be able to come into for a tech organisation, and we'll give them the environment to be able to grow. We'll put senior people around them. We'll put the right kind of culture in place. And they will essentially be our leaders in the future. They will be our senior guys in the next 2 to 3 years and such. So that is a massive thing for us. We plan to bring in around 130 people via that route, potentially more in the future, who knows. But yeah, I think that for us, actually having that training program in place, I guess there's a lot to be said by the fact of you're less than an hour away by plane. I'm not jumping on a 9-hour flight to India, for example, which we used to do quite a lot for some of our partners. So to be able to jump across, and the same goes for the people that kind of are employed or will be employed in Belfast. The idea is that these guys will be able to go back to London. It's not a them and us office. It will be very much the people that are based in Belfast will be standalone teams, autonomous. They will have the right teams, the right makeup of people to ensure that they can deliver as much as they would if they were working out of London.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Carl. What I suppose in terms of, because you talked about integrating teams and then standalone teams, what part are Belfast going to play? Is it a specific part of the journey they're going to own, or is it? I suppose will it evolve over time, Carl?
So. Yeah, I guess from where we are at the moment, the plan is for year one we look at our data domain. So the expectation is that the Belfast team will fulfil kind of a fairly massive need we have around data at the moment. So that will the first cohort of the Assured Skills and the first senior roles we are looking for would be based around the advanced analytics piece and the data lake in Asos. And then the second cohort, which comes probably more towards April, May time next year, we'll be looking around machine learning engineers. So that will support our machine learning and data science competency, which is ever growing. And obviously, as Dave said before, data is key. So that is kind of the hope for the first year. Years 2 and 3, we're still, I'll be honest, not sure yet. I think we're still trying to find out what that looks like and what the need is at the time. I think the main thing we'll be then doing is obviously making sure, like we said before, that the whole idea of the culture is right. So we'll make sure we've got the right people around. We will start recruiting for those senior roles as soon as we identify what that looks like. and then we'll start working with the Assured Skills Academy and the colleges to make sure that syllabus gives those candidates the thorough grounding they need for a career in ASOS, in theory.
And I think that's it. I know we talked a bit about that. It's an incredible opportunity in terms of that for cross trainers or for things like that to bring more people into the industry. I think I'd mentioned to you before the couple of talks before where we're talking about with the tech bubble burst, because listen, it's a global, it's a supply and demand issue. You're talking about it in London. I mean, it's everywhere. But things like that, having a positive net influence in terms of bringing more people into the industry is a perfect way to supplement that. I suppose in terms of, again, without getting it into a pitch and stuff like that, Dave, you'd said that, and you'd worked in Marks and Spencers and a number of other companies before that. You'd said you never worked in a company like that before. Is it just the pace? It's just the relentless pace, or is it just the?
I think it's the pace. It's the self-belief. It does all come back down to that thing, to forgetting you're quite big and actually, you're this little scrappy scar, permanently thinking you're the underdog who has to fight harder, has to go faster, has to do better, and we're going to have a good crack on the way whilst we do it, sort of thing. So that's the vibe. It's something my career, so Tesco's and Marks and Spencers and always in e-commerce and working thing, and it was it feels different, and it feels more. It feels like it is. You're building a product. You're delivering something, and you get there. It's not you turn up today, and do my typey click and go home for the day. And it's not. You're part of a crew, and they come together, and you tangibly get to see what you build. And we're not so big that you get lost in an Amazon world like that. So you can still that what you're working on will make a difference. And you get the fintechs and the startups who have got are hungry and want to go after it, but then they don't have some of the interesting challenges like actually how do I build, if you've got 4 users on the site, you're engineering software in a very different way to how you build it with hundreds of thousands of people simultaneously checking out, and that scale and that challenge and being in the cloud and being able to go fast in there, it's satisfying. Yeah, it's satisfying.
It's probably worth mentioning about the, again, it sounds like a sales pitch. The part of this is the amount that ASOS do invest in our people as well. So we have things like Tech Develops, which for us is the last Friday of every month, which is pretty much a downtime for people to go away, almost take a break from their day job, but do things like training, look at other areas of the business, and basically further themselves. So whether that be Microsoft exam, or whether that be kind of, like I say, online training, whatever it might well be. We also lay on a number of presentations throughout those days when it might not be related to what we're doing. It may be, we've had people come in and talk about Bitcoin. We've had the guys from Nike come in to talk about technology and trainers, if I remember rightly. We've had, obviously, agile at scale, that kind of thing. But like I say, there's a real emphasis on making sure that the people we do bring in are kind of, I say fed and watered is the best way I can say, but make sure we kind of retain those people.
And people get quite excited about getting their slot to go and present at Tech Develops Day and go, actually, I want to go and talk to you about my pet project that I've been working on in here, and look how cool this is. I've managed to make it do that, and it might not be the most relevant thing in the world to think, but actually we can learn some stuff here, and that's cool, and that creates that positive cycle of learning and development. It's good.
And what about, I suppose, do you partner differently with vendors that would use because I'm thinking the challenges you're trying to solve or potentially solve in the future are fairly cutting edge, with the amount of thing. How do you partner with the vendors that you use? Do you do it any differently? Or are you playing about with new kit before it's out, or what way does that work?
So I guess from a vendor point of view, I'll let you do the new kit piece, the Microsoft piece. But from a vendor point of view, we partner with 2 or 3 big name vendors across India and nearshore, across Poland, Czech Republic, those kind of areas. but to make sure we have the right skills and resources available. Our partners in India take care of a lot of our support side for us as well, and have fully fledged teams out there as well. So we're trying to, I think the problem we have at the minute is kind of what we was alluding to before. We're in a position now where everyone's in the same boat. They're looking for resources. They realise they don't need to be in London or in an expensive office anymore. They could potentially work from else remotely. So when we go to our partners and ask for people, we kind of have the same answer everyone else is getting. It's not necessarily here's 50 people. We get in a queue and we kind of wait patiently. So having, like I say, Belfast, for example, as an option for us going forward means we obviously cut down our reliance. We can invest in our people more. Why should we pay someone else? It sounds awful when I say it, but why should we pay a vendor more money when we could invest that money into us and obviously make us more successful? Do you want to do the Microsoft stuff?
Well, and again, one of the other cool, nice things is we've got a proper win-win strategic partnership with Microsoft. So we were very early adopter in Azure, and we're pretty much all in on Azure now. But that means we get early access to some of the products. We get to go and talk to the product teams, help shape how those products develop. So I know the Synapse team. I have regular calls with our data engineers and say, well, have you tried using it like this? And that doesn't quite work for us. We need it to work a little bit like that. So properly being able to contribute to their roadmap, and simultaneously, Microsoft then get real world engineering at scale feedback on their products to make that better. And that's kind of, again, it's a nice little virtuous circle in there, that strategic partnership.
Brilliant. Guys, before we wrap up, I was going to ask, just in case anybody had any questions they wanted to ask from the audience. Anything at all, whenever we've got Dave and Carl here. Yes, sir. Here, I'll give you, do you want me or give you a mic, actually?
Thanks. Hi, guys.
Easy questions only, please.
Yeah, no worries. So obviously with the rise and the acceleration of e-commerce, comes with it the rise of e-commerce analytics, and there's a lot of firms out there supporting brands in terms of how their products are sold on Asos or Amazon or Tesco. The data that underpins that obviously is data that's collected around the web using robots. How is that traffic affecting your business, and do you cater for it and accept it, or do you actively fight against it?
The joys of bots.
Yeah.
That's my regular weekly conversation. Yes, so bots who come in and are looking for just information. We have a classification of good bots and bad bots, the ones that we trust or are respectful in there, that we don't take any active steps to prevent as part of that. There are bots that obviously don't necessarily respect your site and come in and are more aggressive, or are actually actively trying to do something nefarious, or are actually trying to buy products and things like that and take those products away from customers. For that, we have a number of steps, which I won't go into in too much detail here, which we actively contain and look to manage those as part of that. So we treat it on a case-by-case basis, understand what we think the behavior is. There's machine learning models in there that we apply to give us that at scale, and we treat them accordingly. Does that help?
Any other questions? Yes.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for the talk. It was very, very interesting, and
Sorry.
it's great to have you here in Belfast. And I think it's really cool that Asos are coming over here. One question is about sort of, it was referred to earlier with the Invest NI talk about the NI tech bubble. Will Asos be open to engaging with Northern Irish startups that are already in the e-commerce business in Northern Ireland? Will you be able to share what you know and just engage with our companies here, or will it be very much just let's sort of recruit really cool tech talent and train them up? And what are your thoughts around that?
So I'll do a quick one, but then I'll hand back over to you, Carl. But so what works really well for us in giving back into that community in London is we absolutely will host the community start meetups and be part of that environment, and that's it's great for our guys to go and show the cool stuff that they're working on, and then it's always cool to have other people come and learn, and that exchange of ideas. That took a bit of a lockdown made that harder to do, and so we're starting to ramp and find our feet back into being a part of that community again now as that's starting to come back. I can't see any reason why it shouldn't be an active part of what we want to do over here as well, because I don't see any real downside to it. It's just positive.
No, I think you've probably covered it, mate. To be honest, I think we would like to get back to, I say, some kind of normality in that front. So, yeah, the more we can encourage that, we do actually sponsor a lot of events as it is. So, yeah, definitely agree.
Great. Well, time for one last question. If anybody has anything, yes, you're in the middle. Sorry if you were trying to ask one that didn't see you.
Hi guys. I was just wondering, the last speaker was mentioning how smaller online retailers have actually been taking a surprising chunk. They've been growing in the online marketplace. I was wondering if you've been looking at the smaller kind of fashion retailers online, and have there been any learnings or surprises that you've been looking at and integrating with your own strategy?
So, yes, in the short answer. I'm sure I said only easy questions, but so yes, I mean, and that comes back down to actually that more tailored, personalised experience. So as we look at how those smaller retailers and where they're killing it and absolutely they're nailing the experience, it's usually where they are being hyper focused on either an area or a niche they're working in there, and so to understand that, how do we, whilst we've got 85,000 products in there, how do we present you as a customer that hyper focused niche aspect in there? So that's where we've certainly been looking at them and taking those learnings. Definitely in France, particularly in Germany, we're seeing a lot of that traffic in that space. So we're trying to build that into our strategy as to how do we learn the good pieces of that. And I think the other thing that we look at through there is it's not necessarily about ASOS, edging out those competition. We'd love to sell your products. That's a win-win as well for that. So we can sell the brands and partner with people in that way as well.
I guess on that point, so we have ASOS Marketplace. We have a lot of vendors go through that, so especially a lot of startups. So you'll find that we try, I guess, almost try to partner with some of these people rather than compete against them. We're not going to win in that front. They may have brands that are of massive interest to us, so we collaborate with them, we partner with them, we put them on our website. So there's opportunity around that as well. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, it's always satisfying when you see a small business that started on ASOS Marketplace and then sort of graduates, and we have a proper relationship. Then we buy wholesale from them, and they go onto the site.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Guys, that's us for this evening. I think Dave has to run off because he's getting a flight. Carl might be hanging about if you had any questions afterwards. But I just want to say, guys, listen, thanks for joining us today, and welcome to Belfast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, guys.